Hello and thanks for joining StudyCorgi Life podcast. Dealing with toxic, aggressive, and manipulative people is a real pain in the neck. Avoiding such individuals is for sure the easiest solution, but have you ever heard of the gray rock method? This technique is designed to bore and exhaust the perpetrator. With little effort, you can show your abuser that you don't have a thin shell to crack and that their attempts at annoying you are useless. Examples of gray rocking might vary from giving short, non-committal responses during a conversation to avoiding emotional engagement. For instance, when someone tries to provoke you with a heated comment, a gray rock response might be as simple, "I see," or "okay," rather than defending yourself or escalating the conversation. In this episode, you'll discover more gray rock phrases and other examples of how to behave in different situations. What does it mean to go gray rock? The whole method is described in its name. A person using it becomes plain, boring, and hard to move, just like a gray rock. The point is that toxic people need to see an emotional reaction to their provocations. If you don't give them any response at all, they will most likely take their toxicity elsewhere. The gray rock method comes in handy in many circumstances because, in theory, the majority of annoying and manipulative people will react the same way when a person shows no reaction to their toxicity. Let us get a little deeper into the method, so we can see how to get the most out of it. The gray rock method is based on behavioral psychology, particularly the effect of so-called extinction. Extinction denotes the end of a specific behavior when it fails to provide the desired results. A toxic person feeds off the negative emotions of others. Simply speaking, what they want is drama. When such people understand that their chosen victim ignores them and shows no sign of stress, fear, or irritation, they experience extinction and are forced to change their tactic or look for another target. The key to effectively dealing with annoying people is to remain calm and unaffected by their attempts to provoke a reaction. This is what the gray rock method can help you with. There are convincing explanations for the theoretical effectiveness of gray rocking. Many real-life examples also confirm that this method works. However, its efficacy has yet to be confirmed by research. Right now, there's no scientific evidence in favor of this technique. That's why we can't stress it enough that gray rocking needs to be handled carefully. More on that later. The gray rock technique is best used with people who are just unpleasant and not necessarily toxic. It's also said to be effective against individuals with narcissistic and psychopathic tendencies. It's a great short-term solution that can free you from their unwanted attention and even make them lose interest in you completely. The American mental health blogger who goes under moniker Skylar first described this method online. She used it to get rid of a toxic ex. The idea of gray rocking started gaining popularity, though at first many people thought that it works only with romantic partners. Time showed that this is not true. The technique has been successfully applied in a variety of situations outside of marriage and romantic affection, including the following relationship types. Between housemates who exhibit manipulative or domineering tendencies. With problematic or abusive co-workers that frequently try to provoke arguments or drama in the workplace. With seniors or head management at work. With pushy and opportunistic in-laws, step-parents, or other family members in situations such as family holiday gatherings. With elderly people who tend to impose their point of view. At school or college with bullies and toxic students. In situations of cyberbullying during online communication. With toxic roommates or neighbors. With friends who become abusive due to a difficult life period. As you can see, gray rock communication is pretty universal and can be used in various relationships, especially those that can't be ended quickly or ignored. Now that you are acquainted with this fantastic technique, it is time to learn how to use it in practice. Is there someone really annoying around you? Do you want to try to get rid of them with the help of gray rocking? Well, stay with us. In this next segment, we'll tell you how to integrate the gray rock technique into your communication with toxic people. 1. Visualize yourself as a gray rock. Literally imagine yourself as a gray and boring rock. This will help you not to stand out and be as dull as possible. You may even dress in all gray clothing to drive the point even further. This behavior will make it more difficult for your opponent to cling to any of your features which they might use to start a toxic conversation. 2. Give very brief answers. This is the trademark technique of gray rocking, giving brief replies that do not encourage your opponent to keep speaking. If that person insists on continuing the conversation, try to use short and meaningless answers like, or, hmm. Using body language such as nodding and shrugging is also a great option. 3. Show no emotion. Try to disengage from the situation. You know that the toxic person is saying harsh or upsetting things about you to manipulate you and elicit a response. This knowledge gives you an advantage over them. Maintain a neutral expression and a calm tone and use evasive answers. No matter how you are feeling, try to avoid escalating negative situations. 4. Keep your personal information to yourself. Here is another tip on how to be dull on purpose, not to disclose anything that's happening in your life, whether positive or negative. Try to come up with only the most tedious and ordinary things to share with this person. It's also important to avoid asking your opponent about anything interesting. It will make them stop trying to talk to you, as they will be bored by the conversation. 5. Avoid eye contact. As you already know, toxic people always want to see a reaction to their actions. Being able to look you in the eye allows them to read your emotional state and understand that they have elicited a response. However, if you don't look them directly in the eye, they will lose this ability and will assume you're disinterested or bored. 6. Use excuses if necessary. You can use a brief excuse like, "I'm late, gotta go," to end a conversation. It will allow you to flee under a discreet pretext. Don't worry if it's a lie, you have a good reason to say it. 7. Distract yourself. If it is difficult for you to disengage from the situation, try to occupy yourself with something while dealing with the toxic person. This will also help you keep the negative emotions from taking over. For example, when having an unpleasant interaction, you may try reading something interesting on your phone, recall great moments you had recently experienced, or just look out the window and enjoy the scenery. 8. Practice self-care. Having to tolerate toxic people, restrain emotions, and suppress yourself can be very emotionally draining. That's why it is necessary to relieve stress and seek support from your loved ones. You may also consult a therapist who can help you professionally. All in all, the gray rock method is an excellent approach. However, there are certain circumstances in which it will likely be useless. If you still decide to practice gray rocking in such situations, you risk seriously damaging your mental health. Gray rocking isn't always the best course of action when dealing with workplace harassment. You have the right to work in a secure setting, and it's your employer's responsibility to provide it. The gray rock technique is not to be used when somebody seriously threatens you and uses heavy insults. Trying to cope with that by being unresponsive can aggravate the situation even further. It's best to avoid this strategy when an individual you are attempting to gray rock becomes enraged or abuses your children, your pets, or anyone near you. Protecting yourself and those you love is always the top priority. Say, the gray rock technique suits your situation perfectly, and you decide to use it. You might be thinking, this method is cool, but it doesn't really sound like all sunshine and rainbows. Are there any downsides to it? Well, unfortunately, the answer is yes. When considering the gray rock technique, you must also acknowledge that despite its possibilities, this method has risks. Here are the most serious ones. Escalation. Your abuser may start escalating their toxicity even further. This is called an extinction burst. The abuser understands that their old technique doesn't receive the desired result anymore, and they must search for another method to get a reaction from you. Feeling inauthentic. You may feel alienation from your real self. Not everyone can change their habitual behavior with ease. For more extroverted and sociable people, having to adopt a rock-like disposition may feel inauthentic. Frustration. You can get frustrated with having to alter your behavior to escape someone's toxicity. It gets even worse when the person in question isn't willing to change their behavior towards you. Reduced productivity. Your work productivity may suffer due to the emotional drain of having to ignore someone. This is inevitable and will happen at some point if you're planning to use the gray rock technique for some time. Emotional drain. You will have to suppress and alter your emotions when gray rocking somebody. This state may cause you to feel oppressed. As you could have already guessed, this method is quite emotionally expensive. Isolation. You may feel alone and disconnected from others without a way to express your anger if you try to keep your feelings hidden. Because of these risks, the gray rock technique should only be used for short periods of time as a temporary solution to negative interactions. We also don't recommend you to practice gray rocking on your own if you're not sure about your mental strength. The best option is to consult with a professional therapist. They may give you advice on how to use this technique and will support you emotionally. So, what do you do if the gray rock method is not an option for you? First off, don't despair. There's always a way. Once you realize that something needs to be done, you already make the first step towards managing difficult relationships and finding inner peace. Then, you can try other approaches to addressing the root cause of your problem. Here are some suggestions for you to consider. Remove yourself from the toxic person. If you have the opportunity to distance yourself from the toxic person physically, it may be your best bet. Moving away from an abusive roommate or leaving a toxic workplace can give you the space you need to start healing. Involve authorities. In most cases, it is possible to discuss the abusive person and your situation with senior management or HR. You can also talk about this problem with your school principal if you are experiencing bullying. Authorities can help mediate the situation and find a solution that works for everyone. Seek mental health support. If you're feeling overwhelmed and need support, reach out to a mental health professional. A therapist can help you work through your experiences and find healthy ways to cope with toxic people. As promised, a bonus. We are sure you'll find this one helpful. Here's why. Answering questions with dull responses is crucial while you're gray rocking somebody. However, it can be tough to think of them on the spot. Some people get so paralyzed by anxiety that they can't think of anything at all. This is where this list of gray rocking phrases will come in handy. We have created this list of the most effective responses to a toxic person for various scenarios. You can use them in your gray rock communication. Situation number 1, diffusing conflict and de-escalating arguments. Oh, what you may say. I'm sorry you feel that way. I can see why you'd say that. I understand that it bothers you. I'll take it into consideration. You might have a point. Situation number 2, showing a lack of interest in continuing the conversation. Oh, what you may say. Oh, okay. Yes, I can see that. You don't say. That's nice. Situation number 3, politely escaping an unwanted conversation. Oh, what you may say. Sorry, got a phone call from my boss. We'll get to it again later, I really have to go right now. Okay, that's really interesting, but sadly I gotta go. Sorry, but not right now. Situation number 4, you are expected to react, and you don't want to show your emotions. Oh, what you may say. That's fine. That's kinda sad. I don't really have an opinion on this. Yeah, whatever. I guess you're right. Situation number 5, you want to say no and not get a negative reaction. Oh, what you may say. I really would, but I just can't right now. I'm really sorry, but I don't want to upset you, but. And don't forget to pair each one of these with a bored expression. As you can see, the gray rock method is pretty easy. It is accessible to almost everyone, and you don't need a special set of skills to use it. Moreover, this method is universal and can be used in almost every communication you encounter. Still, the gray rock method can be emotionally draining and may not always produce the desired outcome. So, before you start gray rocking, make sure to weigh the pros and cons. Ask yourself if this method is the right fit for your situation, or if you should seek professional help. Remember, the gray rock technique is meant to be a temporary solution. Use it wisely, and you'll get the results you're looking for.